And let's welcome our first speaker today, and this is Anastasia Mina. Anastasia is Head of Educational Projects Department in Relod. She has a PhD in teaching, and today she is going to talk to us about using digital tools to enhance language learning.
Good morning. I'm glad to see all of you here today on a Saturday morning, which actually proves that you are passionate teachers, enthusiastic teachers, ready to spend your weekend, or at least part of your weekend, on your professional development, right? Okay, so before I actually start, I'd like you to fill in the forms, because at the end of my talk, we're going to have a lottery with prizes connected with digital tools, by the way. So please do fill in the forms and make sure that your email addresses are clearly written, that they are legible, yeah? Because it's important, because actually one of the prizes, three of our prizes are going to be sent to your email addresses. So make sure you've written them clearly. Okay, so today we're going to talk about digital tools and how we teachers can use them to enhance learning. So let's start with, just a second. Okay, let's start with who we teach today. Actually, we teach the representatives of the so-called Generation Z. Yeah, these are people who were born at the turn of the century or in the 20th century, and they have some characteristics, some typical features which we just can't ignore. So there are several terms that refer to the representatives of this Generation Z, and the majority, the overwhelming majority of our students belong to this generation, right? And so what are the characteristic features? First of all, one of the characteristics is the so-called mosaic thinking. So this refers to the way they perceive the world around them and perceive information. So how do they perceive it? They perceive it mostly visually and as a succession of unrelated visual images. So just like in a video clip, that's why, by the way, the Russian equivalent of this term is клиповое мышление. So another characteristic is they have a short attention span. So it's hard for them to focus, to concentrate on one thing for a long time. And it may be a disadvantage, however, there is an advantage. It's quite easy for them to switch from one activity to another, from one thing to another. Psychologists say that their short-term memory is developed better than their long-term memory, and therefore they usually struggle with learning poems by heart, dealing with big volumes of information, and they are tech-savvy, they are digital natives. I'm sure all of you have heard this term. Yeah, it has been popular for quite a number of years already. And if we look at all these features, all these characteristics, what implications do they have for us as teachers of English? So make sure that you present information visually, that you use a lot of visuals. Don't give your students long texts, like one-page long texts. Break information into small chunks. Yeah. Provide variety, a variety of activities to avoid monotony, and of course, use digital tools because the representatives of this Generation Z are digital natives. So as for digital tools, they actually appeal to today's learners who are tech-savvy and represent this Generation Z. So using digital tools motivates them, gives them engaged and facilitates learning. Why? Because it provides a digital environment, and this environment is comfortable for them. Yeah, in just their everyday life, they are used to holding a gadget in their hands all the time and being in this digital environment. So they feel comfortable. Because digital tools provide instant feedback, so they can see the result of their action, even a small one, immediately. And learning can be measured, so progress is clearly seen. Because digital tools employ infographics, video, audio, and animation, and these are great visuals, and we've just said that they perceive information visually mostly. Digital tools individualize learning, yeah, because we can assign individual tasks to each of our learners without spending lots of time on finding these tasks, preparing them, and then checking them. And digital tools encourage independent learning, which is really vital today in the age of the so-called lifelong learning. Yeah, so students have to know how to work on their own. And digital tools create a relevant connection between learning in the classroom and real life outside the classroom. And this connection is really very necessary because any kind of teaching and learning a foreign language, being in a non-English speaking country is kind of artificial. Yeah, so the closer it is to real life, the better. And which is also very important for teachers, for us, because we're always very, very busy. Digital tools save our time and energy. Now, as for the digital tools that today we have at our disposals, they're quite familiar to all of you. I'm not going to talk a lot about them, just let's go over them very, very quickly. So one of the tools is interactive whiteboards, which are mostly used as classroom presentation tools. So they enable teachers to show students presentations, interactive presentations on a big screen, and thus deliver the so-called heads-up lessons when everyone's attention is being grabbed, when everyone is participating even in large classes. E-books, e-dictionaries, and e-tests or online tests. And by the way, speaking about e-books, it's very important just to remember that once you buy an e-book, it doesn't expire, yeah? It's always with you, just like a paper book. You can use it on any device, on a computer, on a smartphone or tablet, and everything is synchronized automatically. Yeah? And you can use it offline, so no internet connection is required. There are built-in tools which allow us to do everything we do with a paper book. Yeah, so we can do the same things with an e-book. Like there are bookmarks, there are audio and text notes, highlighters, pens. Yeah, so we can make notes, highlight something, do whatever we want. And it is convenient. LMS, learning management systems, I'm going to talk a bit more about them in a few seconds. And mobile apps, educational mobile apps. So as for the so-called LMS, which actually refers to learning management systems, and I'm sure that all of you know that it's a software application for the administration, documentation, tracking, reporting, and delivery of educational courses. And they have a lot of useful features that support and facilitate both teaching and learning. So almost, or perhaps even I would say that all learning management systems have these features today. So you can control content, move some modules or units within a module, hide or reveal a unit, a module, or an activity if for some reason you're not satisfied perhaps with the sequence of units or modules. So you can create your own content because you can upload documents, presentations, files, create tests, and all sorts of tasks. Most teachers are creative people, yeah, and they like to find something and combine activities from various sources, create their own activities or tests, design tests, and so on. So learning management systems enable teachers to do all these things. An important function is assigning and managing homework. Teachers can assign individual homework to each of the students in a group. They can set deadlines, restrictions if necessary. And learning management systems are good for collaborative learning because such things as group discussions, chats, messages make it possible to do some project work. Yeah? So students can collaborate and interact, and teachers can differentiate learning, as I've said, which appeals to students, yeah, of different levels of language proficiency and students with different learning needs. And it's easy to track and monitor students' progress because there are grade books and reports which show students' progress. They can show you both each student's individual progress and the progress of the whole group, problem areas, and so on. So learning management systems, which are actually the basis of any online courses or online components of courses, have obvious benefits for students because they are flexible, because they provide instant feedback, they enable students to collaborate and motivate students because students see immediate feedback and see their progress. As for teachers, teachers can customize teaching content and even, as we've said, upload their own tests or activities. There's less administrative burden because all the progress is tracked automatically and can easily be monitored. As for mobile apps, actually it's the so-called learning on the go. Whenever our students have some free time, yeah, it's the so-called edutainment, so entertainment designed for educational purposes, because almost all mobile apps have features which are very similar to games. Yeah, there are systems of score. Yeah, there are various levels. Students can just pass climbing up. Yeah, there's some competition, winning some prizes, rewards, and so on. And they provide extra language practice when students have free time. So as for online tests, here you can see the tests Oxford University Press offers you online tests. I mean, There are placement tests, which are computer adaptive, so the level of difficulty of each question depends on how correct the answer to the previous question was. And that's why the results are very, very accurate, so they are measured very, very accurately. And practice tests. Practice tests are designed to prepare for international exams, Cambridge exams. And there is a test mode and a practice mode. So Reload offers you standardized English language tests, the so-called CELT. So please visit our website celt.reload.ru, and there you can actually see the demo tests. Please look at the quote by an English language teacher and methodologist. Whatever technology you use in class, always remember it's not the technology itself that enhances a lesson, but what you do with it. So how you use it. And there's a concept of blended learning, which is familiar to all of you, because it's not a new concept. And the question is today how to blend, and a newer concept is the so-called flipped classroom. Okay? So the so-called flipped classroom, it's called flipped because we reverse the traditional model. Yeah, in the traditional model we present new material in class, then students practice it in home. Using this model, flipped classroom, we blend learning in a different way. So the material is presented and practiced before the lesson, typically online, with the help of the digital tools we just mentioned. So the presentation and practice stages go online. As for practice, so these are drills and controlled practice activities. And what is done in the classroom, face-to-face production, so all the activities aimed at practicing reading, listening, speaking and writing, all sorts of collaborative activities, and clarification of some difficult points. So here you can see some problems which most teachers actually have to face while introducing this model. So a lot of students are not ready for independent learning, therefore the model has to be introduced by degrees, gradually, and little by little. Students don't do their homework, they don't work using these digital tools at home online. So to solve this problem, give them manageable tasks, check their homework, and use collaborative activities where they are responsible for the result of the work of the whole group. And some teachers say students can't learn the new material on their own. So select the material carefully. Not all the material can be presented and practiced online, yeah, without the teacher's help. So make sure that you select the material carefully and provide support to your students, both online, because there are messages and chats, and in the classroom. So the benefits of the flipped classroom are quite obvious. The most perhaps important benefit is maximizing classroom time, because we can use face-to-face communication in the classroom better. We don't have to spend lots of time on drilling, yeah, in the classroom. We use the valuable classroom time for production. Yeah? This model changes dynamics and refocuses the class, and the teacher can monitor what students are doing outside the classroom, and the teacher can see how they are performing and identify their strengths and weaknesses. So to sum it up, we can and we just we can't do without digital tools today, yeah, because they are part and parcel of our daily lives. But while using them, make sure that their use is justified, that you are using them for a purpose and not just for the sake of using them, that they really support and facilitate learning and teaching. And as for the ways of supporting and facilitating learning and teaching, I've mentioned most of them, and try to keep the right balance between traditional face-to-face learning and teaching and using digital tools. Okay, so if you are interested in the digital tools and resources offered by Oxford University Press, please go to elt.oup.com, catalog, multimedia and digital. Oops. And by the way, if you go to elt.oup.com, then catalog, multimedia, digital, and click on Learn Online with Oxford, you'll see all the online courses, which are both extra components of traditional courses and online courses. And you can actually try the demo versions of some of them. So, sorry you can't see it on the slide, but anyway, elt.oup.com, multimedia and digital, Learn Online with Oxford. And our prizes today, yeah, by the way, which were promised just a second at the beginning of my talk. So the prizes are an access to an online course by Oxford University Press, Oxford Online Skills Program. Oxford Online Skills Program. So today's 3 winners will get access codes and of course instructions with all the steps, yeah, you have to go through in order to activate these codes and all the conditions and things like that. And you'll be able to use, to see how all these digital tools work yourselves. Oxford Online Skills Program. And meanwhile, I do apologize for some problems, yeah, because unfortunately we can't see the final slides, but still. So questions. So meanwhile, I'm ready to answer your questions if you have any.
Which mobile apps would you personally recommend for using for students? Maybe you have your favorite ones. Yeah. What mobile apps would you personally recommend for our students' usage? Maybe you have your favorite ones.
So as for me personally, I like Oxford Grammar and Vocabulary app. It's a grammar and vocabulary trainer. So it's perfect for extra grammar and vocabulary practice. And well, students are really fond of it. And actually, grammar is something that needs constant practice. The more the better. So why not use your free time when you are on the go, when you are on a bus, say, or waiting for a friend, or something, just to practice grammar and vocabulary. So grammar and vocabulary trainer. And one more thing is a pronunciation app. So you can also see details about it on Oxford University Press website, oup.elt.com. So this app enables students to compare the way they have pronounced a phrase, with the correct model, and they see all the differences, all the imperfections, So it comes of this. So you can record, yeah, your own pronunciation, and you can compare it with the ideal model and see how close you are, yeah, to the desired RP.
Thank you, Anastasia. Unfortunately, yes, we have a quick minute for one last question. All right?
All right. The question is, what online dictionaries would you recommend to use with young learners and teenagers? Thank you for your
So as for young learners, Oxford University Press has a great dictionary, Oxford Picture Dictionary. It's really great, and by the way, I don't know if you have our catalogs. If you do, you can actually read, yeah, some details and more information about this dictionary and all sorts of course books, yeah, for young learners, and lots of other resources and lots of stuff for young learners. Yeah, this one, just can I borrow it for a second? I mean, this catalog, yeah, if you don't have it, so we'll be more than happy to give you one. And here there's so there are several pages, yeah, with all sorts of dictionaries, and all of them are really high quality and really, really good. And there is information about today almost all paper dictionaries have online versions, so no problem. So here you can find everything about these dictionaries. Okay, thank you. And so just a second before we finish, the winners, yeah, who will get access to Oxford Online Skills Program. And program, yeah, is written like this by Oxford, although it's an American, yeah, way of spelling the word, but it is really so. So, who are these three winners? The first winner is Valieva Daria Andreevna. So, is Daria Andreevna here? Congratulations. So, after the weekend, so say on Monday or Tuesday, you'll get the access code, yeah. I think you've written your email address, haven't you? Okay. With all the instructions. Okay. So the second winner is Balakina Tatiana Viktorovna. Congratulations. Is your email address there?
Yeah.
Great. And one more person is one more winner is Vadova Ksenia Sergeyevna. So, congratulations to all the winners. By the way, I'm not sure about this letter of your email address. Just a second.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Good luck to you, and enjoy the rest of today's conference.
Thank you. Dear friends, let's thank Anastasia for her fantastic presentation. We have a little present.
Oh.
Here you are. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
We apologize for our little technical problems. And if you want to thank Anastasia, in your bags you have some pieces of colored paper. You can write something nice, some feedback, or just smile and put it in the pocket over there to thank Anastasia for her presentation. Okay? And now we have a 10-minute break.
Да, обязательно можно взять.
Раз.
Это на уровне Там можно выбирать.
Вот сюда, я думаю.
Где ваш стресс?
Если у вас нет еще этих материалов, предлагаем.
У нас папа дыхает.
Excuse me. How much room do I have? Good?
But on light translation, yes.
Okay. How about
And this one is...
it's the whole thing?
Yes, yes.
Can I move? I'll move. All right, Mike's scaring me. No, yeah, I just checked.
Вы не знаете, как там получается? Идешь? Ты же там... Ты же хотела... Битком, да, барона. конце вышла из Сурикова, налево повернула и сбежала.
Что ты узнавай, хорошо. Хорошо.
Человек на камере дальше выключай, он нам не трогает, что дальше. Ну, все нормально, не сложить хорошо. Потом ты делаешь. Ты просто дальше опять плей нажмешь, когда она. Когда нажимаешь плей, он нас не трогает, просто Чё? А, ну да, можно. А, вот, я думала, я думала. Нет, это же камера. Я сейчас была камера стоять. Правда, очень страшно тут за технику. А можно? Очень. Он пошло. Там упор все. Кажется, больше не сможешь. На выход все. Ой, девушка аккуратнее. Ой, простите, пожалуйста. Можно рядом с камерой сижу. Будет жалко.
Trying to get the computer working, apparently. So, here we go. добры по проводам подходите, пожалуйста, иначе все выключится. Никто ничего не
Да, снимаю, вот девушки пришли в восторге вообще. Это очень классно, снимаю максимально много. Сделать фото для себя, девочки решать все. Больше и вот говорю, там совсем неудобно, может быть, можно спиннить? Я сижу на нем. А, вы сидите? Да. Не могу стоять. Уже готова вырвать последнее. Я поняла уже, да. Желание, да. Потому что лица хорошие. Даже точно, что
Okay. Good morning, dear friends, and welcome our next speaker. This is Tom Wiseman. Tom is an ILT consultant for Macmillan, and he also is a co-founder of English Connection School in St. Petersburg. And today he is going to talk about exam preparation. Welcome.
Thank you. Hey everybody, I'm Tom. So exams, right? Here we go. But really, it's more like this.
Yeah.
Why exams? What's the point of exams? Any ideas? I like that. So measuring.
Yeah.
And like measuring, assessing. Okay.
Fun.
Fun. It depends on the person. Maybe. Yeah. Definitely. Some sort of certificate that shows your ability, your level. Definitely. Now, do exams reflect real life? If you do well on an exam, are you going to do well at a job? Maybe. You could still be good at both, but are they related? Probably not, because the microphone stopped working. I can shout, but apparently the video. Hello? Hello? Test.
We can hear you.
Okay, here we go. Nice. It started working. Now it's working. But I'll have that just in case. So, I agree, 100%. Exams are all about differentiation. They just need to be able to say, you're here, but your classmate? But your class? Does this work? How to turn it on?
Yes,
Oh, okay. But your classmate, good?
Yeah.
But your classmate is a little bit below you, but this other student is above you. Now, when we talk about that sort of differentiation, it's not working, is it? Can we turn it up? Can we turn it up? I'll just shout for you guys in here, and if people are watching online, they'll have to turn down their volume, all right? It's all about differentiation. That's it. Exams don't reflect real-life skills. Now, maybe there are real-life skills that will be helpful in exams, like determination. If you can sit down and concentrate for 3-4 hours at a time, that will be helpful in your professional life, for sure. But that's not necessarily exam skills, but the fact is this. Our students need exams. They need exams because that's a way to differentiate. If you have large groups of people, you have to be able to say, you're better than these others. You're in this category, therefore I think this about you. It's necessary for our students because it opens doors. So it's necessary for us, because that's how we're judged. Now, how do we prepare students for exams? What do we have? We work on the format. We work on the format, we go through different practice activities, practice tests, exercises, test-taking skills, vocabulary. And what sort of results do we expect? Well, we've got, first, the good. These are the students, they'll succeed no matter what. They're going to do really well. So, we have faith. Video's not working? No? We have faith that these students are going to do very well no matter what, and they do well. Now, here's the catch though. We usually don't get credit for that. We usually don't get credit for that. No one says, oh wow, your student is amazing. That's probably because of you. The best students, we don't get credit for, but we hear more about these guys, the bad students. These are the ones that go into the exam and you say, please don't fail too badly. You don't expect them to do well. You just pray a little bit, and maybe it won't be so bad. We're going to hear more about these guys. So we have the good, the bad, and the ugly surprise. So these are the students who we expect to do well or okay, at least. But then we get the results with, are you kidding me? Are you serious? You didn't listening? Why is that a problem? It's one of those things, and it can be frustrating for us because what happened? What happened with these ugly surprises? What do you think? When you have an ugly surprise, a bad result, when you expected a good result, why does that happen?
Stress.
Nice. Yes. That's it right there. So they can know something, but what happens when you're stressed? Let's say, like for me in Russian. So, I live in St. Petersburg, and I have a dog. He's 9 years old, he's getting older, you know, he's got a white muzzle and everything like that. So I was walking my dog last week, this happened last week. And we're just walking, and suddenly this guy essentially allows his dog to attack my dog. So I'm pulling my dog back, and I'm yelling at this guy, like, get your dog away, control your dog, in English. I lost all of my Russian, all of it. And then I tried to speak to him in Russian, because he's an older guy, he doesn't speak any English at all. And it was terrible. I like to think of myself as upper intermediate Russian. Elementary at best. Elementary at best, because of stress. And that's what happens to our students in that case. So what's our response? How do we deal with that? Well, here's my argument. We have to expect stress. We have to expect it. And the students should expect it as well. But we need to give them some sort of habit that comes into play. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah. We need to give them some habits that they can rely on, that come about reflexively, even when they're stressed. Like this. So I have to basically touch my lips with this. All right. Our goal is more good and no ugly surprises. And here's how we're going to do it. Messaging. We start with the message, and that message eventually develops into a habit that comes about regardless of the level of stress. And as we work through this, we're going to provide an incremental build. Because for our weakest students especially, they're going to fail a lot. They're far away from the goal of doing well on the exam. So on the way there, we need to give them some sense of achievement, some sense of victory, so that they come along with us. And you're going to use the materials you have. I don't want to give you anything new today that makes more work for you. That's the last thing, because I don't know, when I go to a conference, I'm like, oh, great idea. That'll take me 4 more hours every week. I don't have those 4 hours. So, using the materials you have, making lessons so that your students are ready for that level of stress. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to have messages, and those messages form habits, and they lend purpose to test-taking skills. People want to know why they do what you want them to do. So from that, they'll actually start to do it, and your weakest students are going to see progress. Now, I'm going to go through all the messages that we use in my school and my teachers use. So you can take pictures or look online later. They're going to all be on one side at the end. So let's just go through them quickly, and then I'll work with a few, because I have 20 minutes. First, for reading. Read the questions before you read the text. That's a message. That should be a habit for our students. Second, locate the answer. Not locate the specific answer, but the area of the answer. Find where that is and search in that area. That's a habit that our students need to have. Message 3, confirm your answer directly with the text. And then use process of elimination. That's reading. Now, we've got listening. Read the questions before you listen. Read the questions before you listen. That's something they need to do, regardless of the level of stress. Listen both times to confirm your answers. Students come in very confident. They don't listen the second time. You see it in the class. You think they listen the second time during the exam? No. Then keep listening for contradictions. Now we're gonna talk about that one specifically because that's about exam taking and that differentiation that we talked about. Then, writing. A good argument is a well-structured argument. Take the time to structure your argument, plan, and organize, because organizing saves time. Organizing saves time for the students. They need to understand that. Now, I love talking about writing too. Those are the messages that our students need to get. This is, I think, the most practical skill that is relevant to exams that we can teach our students. Then, use of English. This is just because. Why is it this way? You have to know it. It's a pattern. Memorize it. Just because. You have to learn it. Then, when you're on the exam, trust your instincts. There's no logic behind a lot of this stuff. You just have to go with it. You're not going to know everything. That's the thing. You're not going to know everything on the exam. And that's okay, because if that makes our students more stressed, that they don't know an answer, everything gets worse. They need to know that they will be stressed. You will be stressed on the exam. Be prepared for it. You're not going to be at your best. And that stress could come from you didn't sleep enough. Some dog just attacked your dog and you yelled at a guy. You will be stressed, but trust these habits and these messages. Those are all the messages. So this is picture time if you want to take a picture. So, what we need to know is we don't get the credit for our best students. We don't. It's always the teacher's fault, you know? It's always the teacher's fault. We don't get the credit for our best students. We have limited time in the lessons with the students, and we need to make sure the students develop those habits so that we have fewer bad results. Here's how it works. We're going to start with an activity. We start with an activity, and from that activity, it describes and it stresses the value of the message we're trying to impart to our students. Then we repeat the message over and over and over and over. We start saying it, they finish saying it. They get tired of hearing it. This has to become a habit. And then we're going to celebrate those incremental victories, step by step. On the way there, we're going to celebrate it concretely for our weakest students. So let's start with this message right here. Keep listening for contradictions. Now, exam listenings are very, very weird. It's really unnatural. Like, if you try to think about exams as real life, let's say, like, how often does a 12-year-old talk to his elderly neighbor about the different cuisines he likes? If you listen to exams, that's like every other weekend, right? It's completely unnatural. Now, what I like to do with students is tell them that. This is about differentiation. They have to categorize you. They have to put you into a chart to tell you how good you are or how bad you are. So, they're trying to trick you. It is unnatural. And if you go in expecting a natural conversation, you're going to make a mistake. Because here's what it sounds like. Hey, where do you want to go for lunch? Oh man, I love Italian. I could eat pizza every single day of my life. I eat pizza for most days at lunch. It's the best, it really is. There's this pizza place right near here. I really recommend it. You should go there because the prices are reasonable. It's the best pizza around. But let's get some hamburgers today. Who speaks that way? Nobody. Nobody speaks that way. But they're trying to trick you. There are exam listings that are like that. Check these out. Hi Mike, how are you? I hope you're feeling better. Yeah, I'm thinking about getting back to normal. Oh, I think I'm getting back to normal after that nasty flu. It's just that I'm tired after being home all day doing nothing. I can't wait to get back to school. What? Well, right now I'm still too weak. I tried reading, but it's still difficult. TV is easier, so I've been watching a lot of TV recently. Poor thing, I'd hate to have to be glued to that box. Poor you watching TV all day, not going to school. How many of our students watch TV? Yeah, but they're usually on their phones. Like, how many of them are actually watching a physical TV? So with this sort of thing, point it out to the students. Make fun of it. Say, hey, look at this. This is ridiculous, isn't it? Why is it ridiculous? They're trying to trick you. They're trying to trick you. So pay attention, listen twice, listen for contradictions. Don't trust your first instinct. Because if you treat it like an actual conversation, they'll catch you. Now what about this one? This is for reading and listening. This message right here. So remember, we start with an activity that underlines and stresses the value, the reason for the message, and the reason to create the habit. So what do you think? Read the questions first. How can we make them do that and make them understand the reason for it? Sorry? So something looking for information? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you want them to look for information within the text first, based on the questions. In the question. Exactly. You can anticipate what's coming in the text based on the questions, for example. Now, there's a lot of different options. Here's one I have right here. I like to make them fail. And make them understand that they failed because they didn't do what I want them to do. So here we've got, first, they listen without the questions. They listen without the questions. And then I take away the listening, and then I give them the questions. And then they fail it. They try to remember. They try to remember how many. Here, I messed that up. Sorry. So they try to remember the answers, and then we record those. We record the answers based on the first listening. Then they listen again, and then they do the answers. And I ask, how many did you get the first time? 1 out of 8, 0 out of 8, 2 out of 8. Now, why? Is it because you didn't read the questions first? Yeah. Read the questions first. Read the questions first. And that underlines the purpose of that message. And it makes it so that they really value it. They really start to value it because people need a reason why. There's a study from a while back, I don't know, probably like the 80s or something like that. Well, in American universities, they have one copier or one printer at the library. And there's usually a big line to get to that. And they did this study where they sent someone to the front of the line, and they wanted to see how many people would say yes to this question. Hey, can I go in front of you? And people said no. People said no, like 20% said yes. Some low percentage of people said yes. And they said, okay, what if we add a reason? How many people will say yes? Okay, so hey, can I go in front of you because I'm running late for this class and I really need to copy something? Over 70%, 70, 80% of people said yes. Then they said, okay, doesn't matter what the reason is. So then they sent the people to the front of the line and they said, can I go in front of you because I need to make copies? Almost the same percentage of people said yes. The reason doesn't matter, but people need a reason. If we want them to follow us, if we want them to develop these habits, they need to understand the reason. And that's why we underline it with activities beforehand. Now, with our weak students, they're far from being where they need to be. I talked to a teacher about 2 weeks ago, and she told me she has a student who just decided she's going to pass the YG. She said, I'm going to pass this. And the teacher told me, I don't know how she thinks she's going to do that. She hasn't studied for the past 3 years. She hasn't been working at it at all, but suddenly she decided. Now, that sort of student is very far. It's very far from getting where they need to be. But if we just keep using the same strategies, and they fail, and they fail, and they fail all the way, what's the motivation? We have to provide them with some sort of victory along the way. And we can do that in a way that underlines the messages. So let's take the reading, like we talked about before, that idea over there. We have the reading. We're going to build it up this way. Read and locate keywords. You can write little summaries. And you can read the questions first, emphasizing the other message. Then you guess where the answer is in the text, which paragraph. And then find the answer. Now, those weak students might not be able to find the actual answer. They might get it wrong. But you know what? That's a victory right there. That's a victory. And you can emphasize that and you can celebrate that. If you got that right, you are halfway there. You're halfway there to actually getting the answer. And the more often they're able to do that, the more likely it is that our weakest students will have decent results or even good results on the exam. These are the habits to emphasize. That's it. If we emphasize these habits, and they become reflexive to students, regardless of the levels of stress. Regardless of the levels of stress, they'll revert back to these habits, and they'll rely on them. And their results will improve. No more ugly surprises, more good results. And that's the way to do it. That's how I work on exams. Using the materials you have, same exact materials, no extra preparation time. My name is Tom. And I'm ready for any questions.
Thank you, Tom. I will have just a couple of minutes for questions. Would you like to ask anything? Hold up your hand. Have we got any questions to Tom? All right. Also, I'd like to remind you that in your bags you have some pieces of colored paper, and if you want to thank Tom for his presentation, to leave any feedback, to write some nice words, you can write something and put it into Tom's envelope over there on the wall before leaving the room. So,
And guys, feel free to contact me, honestly, because I always say this to audiences. So if I'm speaking to 100 people, guess how many people write me afterwards?
One.
Maximum 3. Yeah, usually one. So you're not bothering me. I love being in touch with teachers on this sort of thing, because that's why I do this, to go out there, test ideas, and get feedback on them. So feel free, get in contact with me. I'll look forward to it. Oh yeah. Do you send out the slideshows? Yeah. If you don't get them through Trinity English, contact me and I'll send it. No problem.
Tom, are you on FB, Facebook? Do you have Facebook?
I am not very good on social networks. I haven't been on Facebook for 2 years. So I'm on VK now. The best way to contact me is email. It's email. I do have a Facebook, but I don't look at it. So good question. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. That was a lot of fun.
thank you for your wonderful presentation, and he is so inspirational. Here's a little present.
Thank you.
This is for you. Okay, thank you. Dear participants, don't forget to leave your feedback, and thanks to Tom and the envelope. Thank you.
Мы можем что-то сделать со звуком? Чат пишет, а что с петличкой? Данные экранчики. Все равно народ будет двигаться. Что тут нужно нам дать? Ну не будет тут места. Я могу поставить сзади или спереди? Одновременно не могу, да? Нет, я постараюсь немножко. Спасибо. Десять такой. Так, еще одно препятствие. А мы все видео получим, да, на почту потом? Да. Спасибо.
I'm the director of studies in private language. So we can choose in that way. Yeah.
Давай. Очень сильно. Сядь, да, проверим. А девушка вмещается хорошо. Нет, она точно пол головы вмещается. Я еще в середину встану, и не найдешь никуда на руки.
I'm glad it was awesome. Good.
Where's my next speaker?
Моя Головачева.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. All right, we can do stuff back. I just hope online. I hope online.
One, two, three.
Earlier the power button was flashing. Maybe the battery's flashing. I think the battery.
Выдерни. Выдерни. Да. Все, отпусти. Пусть болтается. Аккуратно только что. Да.
Okay, I contact you, okay?
Yeah.
Please
Got it.
write back
Excellent.
to me something like hi.
Sure. Yeah. I might only be able to do it on Monday or Tuesday. Just so you know. But I'll get back to you. No worries.
And then I or my manager will talk to you about time, topic.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Good luck.
Excuse me, can you grab some water?
Свободно? А у вас там свободно? Свободно. О, спасибо.
У меня в 13:20 время, до 14. Нет, а там разное время. Нет, у меня в 13:20 до 14. А у кого-то там 14 до 14:30. Очень наоборот. У нас просто я говорю тебе, что я
Тут занято? Вы здесь решили остаться? Да, мы здесь решили остаться. Да, понятно.
Нет, же правильно обычно сюда просто нажимаешь. Всем будет отправляться.
Обучения Ltd. She's also a TPT teacher trainer. She is an LCCI, the Certificate for Teachers of Business English holder, and she is also Pearson and LCCI oral examiner. And today she will be talking to us about taking off from no-speaking plateau. Over to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for such a warm welcome, and I'm really excited and privileged to be here today. And as Elena has already introduced my topic, I suppose we can move on. Hello, come on in, please. The first thing I would like to share with you is some amazing figures about English. The figure I personally find the most amazing is that 80% of global businesses today say that English is needed for success in business. And I would even say that English is needed for success in life. Research and common sense suggest that there is a lot more to speak in English than the ability to form grammatically correct sentences and then to be able to pronounce them. In other words, when we ask anybody, do you speak English? And when our students say, I want to speak English, actually it involves a huge combination of things, right? Including using the appropriate vocabulary, using appropriate grammar, the right body language, and soft skills. Okay, come on in, please. The next, okay, come on in, please. There are some delusions about learning English, and especially about learning speaking English, which I would like to discuss with you. And the first one is, you can learn to speak a foreign language quite well without lessons. So when a student comes to me and says, Zhenya, okay, we have classes, everything is fine, but I know what the solution is, what the solution to my progress is. I will go to Malta, stay there, maybe swim, right? Or I will even go to Hawaii, surf, and then English, it will just somehow stick to me. I will pick it up from, right, I will absorb it, I will pick it up just from the ear. Absolutely. Fantastic. Come on in, please. Thank you for coming. Unfortunately, I have to tell them, no guys, it doesn't work this way. You need to take effort. And I always tell them my personal story. My second language at university was Spanish. And I have to admit that my current level is still, after so many years, A2, maybe A2 plus maximum. And I decided to test this famous delusion and try to travel around South America and check. Maybe English will just stick to me, right? Maybe I will just take it, absorb it from the ear. It didn't work, no magic pill. Sure. My result is 2 words, just 2 words. Chicken soup, which I really love, caldo de gallina, and I like hearing, so I still remember how to say ceviche. Nothing. I had to speak Spanish, I really had to, but I didn't take any classes, I did not make any effort. So that's the story I tell my students, and they somehow feel to agree with me. Well, that's what most of our students or teachers maybe say, that we study at school, right, or our students study at school, and when we enter university, we are enabled to speak a language. The big question is, what we really understand by speaking a language. Most of children can take part in typical conversation, like greeting, saying goodbye, maybe ordering food, and they can sometimes even receive classes in English. One more delusion I do love. You must use the language freely to learn to speak it, even if you make a lot of errors. Thank you for coming, Natalia. Okay, so many interactions. Would you like to come in? Okay. So when a student comes to me and says, Zhenya, I know what I want. I want to speak English fluently. But what they do not understand is when we speak about fluency, it's not about making a lot of mistakes, right? If you look at the picture of a lighter, and then can you guess what is that? Right, absolutely. Wow, fantastic. So that's how I tried to show you what accuracy and fluency can be represented and how this message can be communicated to the students. We should not only focus on the flow and efficiency, which is fluency, we should also focus on accuracy, right? Which is about choosing appropriate words and appropriate grammar. Well, one more delusion is that we should always correct students' errors, right? And this question of student error correction is really an issue, right? So from school, this red pen and a lot of minuses and a lot of ticks and everything, I myself get demotivated and I receive a lot of criticism. So instead, a good solution here can be to praise any effort of the student to speak, to use more complicated grammar, even if he or she has made a mistake. If we praise an effort, we won't be afraid to speak and to make mistakes. And that's my favorite one. When we are involved in any process, what we expect our progress to look like? This one, I suppose, right? So we just make a little bit of effort and then we just rock it up. Our efforts pay off. What it realistically, but still in an ideal world, looks like. We are making a certain amount of effort, but when we are some kind of stuck. And we should also take into account that we all have good days and bad days, and our perception of any progress is very highly dependent on how we feel, what our emotional status is. So a learning curve would look like this, very volatile. In school, we are very lucky. When we are in school, we have a very clear vector of what we should teach our students and what they should be able to do in terms of speaking. But when we are in university, when we are teaching in university, and when we are teaching grown-ups, usually goal setting is a real problem, I would say, a real issue. Just because when our students are not aware of what they will be able to do tomorrow, in 2 days, in 3 days, in a month, they get some kind of demotivated. So how do we usually assess progress? We use common European framework of references, right? Starting from A1 for elementary and moving on to C2 for those who have mastered a language. And this distance between B1, right, and B2 and C1, this distance is really, really long. So a lot of our students get a feeling they are stuck, or even that they are moving backwards. And a student can come to you and say, I've been learning for so long, I had classes with you for so long, why is my speaking still at B1? Why is that? And then we kind of try to make up some kind of motivation and say it's not B1, it's B1 plus, or B1 plus plus, or for lower levels, I usually use A1, A3 pluses, A1 3 pluses, or something like this. Pearson has a fantastic solution to this issue, and it is a global scale of English. If you look at it, it is connected to common European framework of references, but it has a more granular approach. So, by the way, what is really fantastic about it, and what I really like about it, is that it starts at 10, which means at any level, right, we have some knowledge of English, and we have some ability of speaking English, and it finishes at 90, because the sky is the limit. One more fantastic way of motivating our students to speak and to acquire and learn language in general is taking international exams. And here you can see some stars of Pearson Test of English, which is really focused on communicative approach. And LCCI, it is for those who need a business English. Really fantastic, really communicative. Please. In my mid-20s, I had an experience of taking piano lessons. And, I went through all these exercises and taking classes and etc. and blah, blah, blah. But still, today I cannot play the piano. Piano or music is often compared to English. And the question here is, why don't our students play the piano, or why don't they speak? And the answer I think all of us have is that they are all really concerned about what is called the language barrier. And we teachers need to help them first understand what the language barrier is about, and second, how to break it. Second, it's a mistake I, as a teacher, I do not open the door for conversation. In other words, I do not create an environment and need where students will be able and will be enthusiastic to speak. And the third point here is I, as a teacher, and a lot of my colleagues are trying to reinvent the wheel, right? We all want to be creative and doing it on a daily basis. We are reinventing the wheel instead of trusting the expert. What our students want, right, is some kind of a balanced course with some can-do objectives, ideally. This total English is fantastic because when I show it to my students, I always stress these can-do objectives. So after the first class, or by the end of the first week, by the end of the module, you will be able to start a conversation with a stranger, or do this and that. Then, at the end of the lesson, of the month, of the week, I check, can you do this now? And if they have written it down, right, and if at the end I kind of ask them for this feedback, they are really proud of saying, yes, now we can start a conversation with a stranger, and actually I did it yesterday. And what I actually also like about a lot of textbooks and total English in particular is this how to box this. And the thing I really admire is this lifelong learning, with a lot of useful ideas about how to move language usage from the classroom to the real world, and they can come up with their own ideas and to do that. Okay. If you look at this question, how many indoor and outdoor activities do you know? Do you think it's a good question? Demotivating. Why is that demotivating?
Because if you don't know any, you're like, I'm stupid, I don't know any.
Okay. Let's imagine you ask this question after pre-learning outdoor and indoor activities. Still, is it a good question?
It's not a question.
Sure.
It's not a good because it involves just enumeration.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Absolutely. So, in other words, this question, which looks absolutely okay, right, from the first slide, we have pre-teach indoor and outdoor activities. Now we want them to speak about what they have learned. What result do we get? 5. I know 5. There is no need to speak, right? And what can be done here? Which activities to decide? This is our favorite personalization, right? So if you look through your teaching materials, you will see a lot of such, I think, things. Some more examples. This is a warmer. When I, every time on Monday, I have a question with a student, and I want kind of to tune him into speaking English, what I do, I ask, how was your weekend? If I want him or her to speak a little bit more, I ask some additional, right, follow-up questions. Did you have a good weekend? What was the best thing about your weekend? But actually, here, after asking 3 questions, the answer I get is 3 sentences. That's not what I was looking for. So we can look at each and every task we give to our students from the perspective of what result, what outcome we want to get. And for instance, with this last weekend or holiday question, we can divide them into groups, right? And ask one student to speak in detail, and the other student to react, making it more like a real-life conversation. Do you ever use this unscrambling exercises? Okay, do they work well with you, students? Okay. Well, unfortunately, with my students, they have never worked. So the topic is interesting, right? Facebook profile photos. So what solution I come up with here, using a little bit of creativity, right? Is to choose, before doing this actual task, write down a question. And if we speak about teenagers, they do not tend to use Facebook, they tend to use VK, right? So if you were going to upload a profile photo to your VK account, which one would you choose? Pretty portrait, strange close-up, party shot? By the way, does anybody know what the strange close-up is? Here is the answer. Okay, a lot of my students don't, right? So in other words, if you look at the activity and think of how you can present it, it can benefit a lot. One more game I like is taboos. It really does a lot for students to speak. And with picture description. Pictures are said to be a fantastic way to motivate our students to speak, but the original task here is work in pairs and look at the photos. What relationship do you think people in each photo might have? So if I look at this fantastic picture, I would say they are friends. No speaking, right? Not that speaking we were looking for. So if you try to come up with several questions, you might want your students to answer before actually moving on to making a conclusion about the relationship between people, they can benefit a lot from it. I do love mingling activities, and everybody stands up, right, and communicates. And after teaching grammar, for instance, this dependent prepositions exercises, you can ask the students to mingle, right, to discuss these questions. And important thing here is to set the right task. For instance, to divide them into 3 or 4 groups, and then ask them to share and compare their findings, right? One person might be nominated to summarize to the rest of the class, and as a follow-up activity, you can ask them to write a report, a letter, and a mail, so on. Well, as I've been teaching business English for many years, I do love doing cases with students, and this is one of my favorite cases from Market Leader. It's about ice cream. If you personalize the case and not just ask them to do it,
ask what is going on in your company, what can be done to improve, and they really work. And the problem or the issue we face when we teach groups is that usually we get mixed ability groups. Students love to watch videos and to speak after watching a video. But what if we have a group of, say, B1 plus students, but we work for a company, right? And the students can be of different levels, and we have to teach them all. Not to have this issue with one part of the class working hard and the other part of the class sleeping. We can grade the task and come up with different ideas, right? Here is a video. So the original task was the video on how to give feedback, and the original task, like, use phrases to give positive feedback to 3 of your classmates. For A1 or A2 students, the task might be just to understand the general idea, right? And then to have some kind of simplified questions. And Quizlet is fantastic tool for learning vocabulary. You can get it for Speak Out directly from My English Lab. There are 7 options of how you can teach vocabulary, and while teaching these parts, I usually do some kind of speaking activities, starting from questions to storytelling. And there is a fantastic task in Speak Out Advanced, so I suppose you can use it with different levels of students, which is sentence extension. If we take a simple sentence of saying, I like coffee, and ask a lot of additional questions to it. Can I try to do it with you? Would you join me? Sure. Not sure? Sure. Okay. Say, do you like coffee?
So, what is my definition?
Just answer my questions.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So, do you like drinking coffee in the morning?
It depends.
It depends. When do you like drinking coffee?
Usually during the lunchtime.
Okay, so I like drinking coffee during the lunchtime. Which coffee do you like?
Latte or cappuccino.
So I like drinking latte or cappuccino during lunch. Who do you drink it with?
Mostly alone.
I like drinking latte or cappuccino during lunch being alone. Where do you usually drink it?
Usually I go to a coffee shop around the corner.
So during lunch, I usually go to a coffee shop around the corner where I like drinking coffee alone. Where do you prefer to sit and drink your coffee?
I go for the window table.
So usually during the lunch, I go to a cafe around the corner, and I usually sit near the window, right? Near the window, and I like drinking coffee there. So actually, you can take any exercise, any sentence, and do it this way with your students. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. And we have got a few minutes for questions. So if you have a question, put up your hand. Put the microphone very close.
Some students ask to correct each mistake. What would you recommend? And usually high-level students ask to correct all their mistakes. They need it for their work.
Right, it's typical situation. Of course, when I was speaking about correcting mistakes, I was mostly speaking about lower level students. With high level students, if you correct each and every while speaking, right? If you correct each and every mistake, it would depend on what kind of speaking task you give them, what result you want. If we, for example, if they are preparing to give a presentation, usually they have a text, right? They write. So there maybe a good idea would be to record them and ask them to look for their mistakes themselves. If it is just described as picture, I usually have an increment that I would not interrupt them all the time, right? I write down if it is one-to-one per student, and then we discuss everything in detail. I give some kind of follow-up activities. If we are speaking about a group, you can either write down the mistakes yourself, or you can use what is called peer correction to ask other students kind of to notice the mistakes the co-students are making, and then, for example, on a blackboard to write them down and to discuss them.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
And maybe one more question. Have you got any? All right. Okay, so thank you for your fantastic presentation. And we have a special gift for you.
Wow. Looks fantastic.
And all dear participants, if you want to say thank you, to leave some feedback, you have colored paper in your bags, so you can make a note and put it in the envelope over here. We will move it. So don't forget to say thank you to the speaker and give some feedback. Okay, it is lunchtime now, so check the time of your lunch at the back of your lunch ticket. Go and come back after lunch.